Are you a WordPress developer? Then this episode is for you. You're watching Frontcube TV. I'm Aslam Najibuddin. So let's face it, moving WordPress website is real pain, either from production to localhost or the local host to the production. In this episode, I'm going to walk you through the hardest way, and I'm going to show you how to use two powerful plugins to facilitate your moving process. So let's get started.
Okay, so first we're gonna look at the hardest way of moving a website. In this instance, we're going to get a copy of this WordPress instance that I set up for this episode in our staging server. So first, what you need to do is you need to connect to a FTP program. I'm going to use Transmit. And then you need to manually download all these files into your computer. So this is not a very efficient way to manage your development workflow, because if you have edited any theme files, then you will need to remember them or mark somewhere else, and then you need to replace the file or the files in your server. Okay, so once you have downloaded all the files, then what you can do is you can go to your local server and then complete the installation process as usual. Okay, once you install the WordPress instance, then what you need to do is you need to go back to your server and the phpMyAdmin or whatever the database management software that you use, and select the database of that particular WordPress instance, and then you can go to export and go to custom. Now you can export the entire database into an SQL file. Once the file is downloaded, what you can do is you can go to your local computer and your database management program, and in my case it's phpMyAdmin. Then go to the particular database. Now what you can do is you can check all the tables and you can drop them. Now if you can go to the import and go to choose file, you can select the particular SVL file that we have downloaded from the server, and now you can install into the particular database. Now if you come back to your WordPress installation, and when you're trying to go to your local server, you won't be able to access the site. Even in this screen, if you click the go back to the Frontcube TV and you can see the actual URL here, if I click that, you will notice it goes to the live server. This is because we haven't changed the URL of the new site or the local site. One way to fix this problem, you can open this SQL file in your editor and you can search, you can find the production URL and you can replace them with your local URL. So this is a tedious task. So the easiest way to solve this problem, you can open your code base in your text editor and go to the wp config file, and here you can define the wp home into your local server URL, and then define the wp site URL to your local URL. So if you can save this file and you can go back to your local server and you can go back to the site, now you'll be able to see the site is accessible. And one of the problem is, as I mentioned, when we are doing the development, then we need to manually track the files and then we need to replace them in the server. This is a kind of a really tedious process. Next, we're going to look at how we can use the power of plugins to move your WordPress website. Okay, so you can see I have cleaned up all the files. Now I have a fresh folder. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to log into the production site. Okay, so there are two awesome plugins out there that we can use to move our WordPress website, and we're going to look at one by one. So first we're going to go to the plugins folder and add new. And here I'm going to search WP clone. Okay, you can install. Once you activate the plugin, you'll be able to see a menu item called WP clone. Click on that, and then you can create a backup of your entire website. And then it'll create a backup file URL. Now you can go back to your local machine and install a fresh copy of WordPress. You can see I have already cleaned up the previous instance, and I'm going to continue the installation process. Okay, once the installation is done, you can log into the website, and then you will need to install the same plugin into the local development environment. Great. Now you can go to your production server or the staging server and copy the backup URL and come back to the local server or the local instance of WordPress. Go to WP clone, and here you can select the restore from URL. Click on that, and here you can paste the backup URL, and you can check this I agree, and you can click the restore from URL button. Okay, so the restore has been successful. But the problem with this approach, this will really depend on the size of your backup file. And sometimes for the larger websites, let's say like 2 GB or something, it won't quite work. And because if you're a shared host server, uh, creating this backup file will consume more and more resource of your server, and sometimes you will end up having some memory problems. So when you're doing this, keep in mind. So once the restore is successful, it'll ask you may need to resave your permalink. But if you click this link, you'll be able to see that it prompts you to log in. So in this time, you will give the username and the password that you given to the production website. Now, in this case, you will need to resave the permalinks. And now if you visit the website, everything is good to go. So one problem with this approach is you'll be able to see that it provides a backup URL. So obviously we can use to get a clone of the website or move a website from one server to another server. But moving a WordPress website or develop a fresh website to a production server or a staging server, this method won't that much helpful because we cannot refer the local backup file from a server. In that case, we need to upload the backup file to another server, and then we need to refer that file to the WordPress instance we are trying to restore the backup. So the next plugin we're going to look at is a very wonderful plugin that I really like. It's called Duplicator. So let's go to the plugins folder and go to add new, and let's search Duplicator. Okay, you can see that it has like 500,000 active installs. Go ahead and click install now button and activate the plugin. As you can see, now we are in the production server. You may also see the duplicator menu. You can go to the packages. In here, you can literally create a package of your WordPress website. Go ahead and click create new button, and here it'll notify you if you have any kind of problems. So I think in my case everything is fine. I can click next. So Duplicator started scanning the website, and it says okay, everything is fine. And I have one warning. If I open that, it says a large file size movies backups can cause issues with the timeouts. Basically, this will happen with your PHP configurations. So as far as I can see, the files are 36 MB. It's fine. I can build the package. Great. Once the package is completed, it will provide an installer PHP file, and an archive. So I'm going to download both. Okay, again, I clean up my development website. Now it's pretty clean. I'm going to go to the folder structure. You can see it's pretty. Now I'm going to move this installer PHP file as well as the zip file into that particular folder that I'm going to install the WordPress. Next, you can go to your local server and call the installer.php, and then you can provide your local database configurations. And then you can test your connection. Great. So you can see the server connection and the database are fine. It'll be able to find the database, but it also has a warning. It says the particular database has 12 tables. This is because we haven't deleted the tables from the previous install. In that case, you can select the second option, connect and remove all data. And if you can test the connection, it'll go away. And you can check the I have read all warnings and notice, and you can run deployment. In the second screen, you'll be able to find the duplicator is very smart enough to find the old settings. That means the FCTV, the production URL, and the new settings. This is obviously our development server. So let's run update. Great. So you see that zero errors, zero updates, zero warnings, everything's fine. Next, we need to save the permalinks. So click this and it'll open the login screen in a new tab. I'm going to log in. Obviously, you will need to use the credentials of your live site, and you can simply come back and save changes and then go back to the duplicator page, and you can test the website. Everything is fine. And finally, you can clean up the files. You click OK, and it's going to delete all the installer files and the backups as well as the zip file, so it will save up your space in your computer. So this is the second method, and there's a major benefit in this method using duplicator, because if you're developing a website locally and if you're ready to move to the staging server or the production server, simply you can come to your local instance and go to duplicator and go back to packages, and here you can create this package same like that we did before in the production server, and then you can move the files into the production server, and you can follow the same steps to deploy the website into the production server. And again, we have an issue here. So what if we found an error after the deployment? That means again we need to track all the files manually, and then we need to move them to the server. This method is much better than the first two methods, but still we have limitations. Let's say we are developing a website consistently. That means that we're going to have the continuous deployment as well. So in that case, either we need to move the edited files to the server and update the database like we did in the first workflow, or else we need to flush the production or the staging server each and every time and deploy the site again with duplicator, which is quite not feasible. So don't worry. Next week, I'm going to show you a bulletproof WordPress workflow to ease your WordPress development process. So stay tuned.
In this video, we're going to look at how to properly use video background and the best practices, and more importantly, the best workflow to follow when you're developing websites with video background.